how's it going? This is David Rosen, your host of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what other movies might have inspired it. And today on the show, we have part 2 of our 2-part week on crazy true life stories. You may have listened to our previous episode, episode 15, which was on the movie Tag, which was a movie that I wasn't even really planning on seeing, but I ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I would. It wasn't great, but it was all right. But it was a really fun episode to do, and it definitely was a great, crazy story. They'll put it that way. And I thought it would be a great matchup with the movie we're doing today, which is another great, crazy, true story. But we'll get into that in a minute. Before we do that, I want to remind you all to please make sure you are subscribed to the show. Wherever you're listening to it right now, you could probably subscribe right there, but you could also check us out on Apple Podcasts, on Pocket Casts, on Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher. We're pretty much in every podcast app. If there's one that you like to listen to podcasts on and you don't see us, just shoot me an email, bydavidrosen@gmail.com, or tweet at me at bydavidrosen, or tweet at the show at piecingpod, and get in touch and let us know that you can't find the show, and we'll try to make sure we get it on there, whatever app it is that you're using. But so far, we have been getting everywhere, and we're really excited that people have really been enjoying the show. And we're getting a lot of great feedback, and we want to keep getting more. So make sure you are following us on social media at PiecingPod, on all of the social media sites. You could subscribe to our mailing list on our website, www.piecingpod.com. And you can also join our Facebook group, Piecing It Together, a movie discussion group. We've been having a lot of great chats in there. We continue the conversations about the movies that we cover on the show, but we also talk about new movies that are coming out. We talk about all different kinds of things related to movies. We've been having a lot of great conversations in there, a lot of fun. We want to get you involved with it. So we'd love for you to join the group and get in on all that action. And maybe we'll read some of your comments here on the show, because it's really a really fun way to stay connected with everybody who's been listening. And we really appreciate that you're all out there listening. So one more thing before we get into today's episode, just wanted to mention, again, thank you everyone who's been listening so far. We have a lot of great stuff planned for this show. We got a lot more episodes coming, of course. But we also have some special episodes coming that are going to break from the usual format of the show. But I think they're going to be a lot of fun and add a lot of variety. We're also planning on doing some episodes on some smaller indie films, which I think will be a cool thing, just to get into that whole indie spirit. And what else do we got coming up? We got some competitions. We're going to be doing some giveaways and all that kind of stuff, prizes. And make sure you're signed up to our mailing list, because that's where we're going to mainly be doing those giveaways. So you can click on our website, piecingpod.com, and get signed up for that mailing list. But yeah, lots of really cool stuff coming soon in the following weeks. And we'll be continuing to do lots more episodes. We already have a few plans right now. We're just going to keep getting more, start getting some new co-hosts on the show. And of course, continue with all the ones that we've had already. We want to have all of them back and do more episodes with everybody, because it's just so much fun doing it. I hope you guys enjoy listening to it. So with that, I guess we'll get on to today's episode. Like I said, it's the second part of our crazy true life story week here on Piecing It Together. And this one is American Animals. American Animals is directed by Bart Layton, and it stars Evan Peters and Barry Keoghan as the leaders of a group of young women who are just like bored with life and unsure of what they're going to do with their future. And they decide to try to steal some incredibly rare, expensive books from a museum library. They have no idea what they're doing. It all goes horribly wrong and spirals out of control. And yes, it is a true story. It's a movie that plays with the borders of fact and fiction. It constantly blurs the line. It even has the real-life would-be criminals in the movie as themselves, despite the fact that actors are playing them too. It's a wild movie. It's unique, and it made for a really great conversation with my returning co-host, Josh Bell. So we got with us again, first time since episode 2, Josh Bell Hates Everything. Josh Bell, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to having you again. And today we are going to be talking about American Animals.
Yes.
This was a cool movie. I was really looking forward to it, and it was a little different than what I expected, but overall, I think it kind of lived up to the craziness that I was looking forward to.
Yeah, it was, I would say it was crazy and it was different. I think it was about what I expected from what I had read about it in terms of the format, but
Hmm.
it definitely, that format is a different approach than most movies of this
Sure.
type. So that's refreshing. It's I like that it's ambitious. I feel like maybe not all of those ambitions work out entirely, but I
Exactly.
appreciate the effort when a movie goes for something more than just the expected.
Yeah, I went in. I had only seen the trailer. I hadn't actually read anything about it at that point. I also didn't know. Had you seen the director's previous film, Brad Layton?
I yes, I had. In fact, I have that on my list of things for
There
us
you
to get
go.
to.
All right. Well, you know what? We might as well jump in there. Let you make
Okay.
that number one. But
All
yeah,
right.
what's it called again?
The Imposter
The Imposter.
is Bart Layton's first film, which is more of a documentary
Hmm.
than this movie, but at the same time does feature a lot of reenactments.
Right.
So
Right.
it's interesting to me, like at what point does that switch flip and you categorize a movie as a narrative rather than a documentary? Because it
Sure.
seems like to me, American Animals is generally being categorized as a narrative film with some documentary elements. Whereas The Imposter was categorized as a documentary with some reenactments in it.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
maybe it's when you cast like Evan Peters and Barry Keoghan and actors that are recognizable, then you get to be called
Right.
a narrative. I don't know.
Yeah.
But certainly The Imposter is a very, if you haven't seen it, see it. I mean, it's a good movie.
I've heard it's really good. Yeah.
And is better than American Animals.
Okay.
But it's a similarly insane, in fact, probably more insane true crime story. It's about this con artist of a French, I believe, con artist
Mm.
who posed as a like the son of this family, an American family in I think Texas, I want to say,
Hmm.
whose son had been possibly kidnapped or had disappeared years and years earlier. And this French con artist learned about this and decided he would claim that he is the son, even though he's French and thus speaks with a French accent
Right.
and doesn't look anything like their son. But they so wanted to believe it that they went along with it. They said, yes, this is our long lost son. And they took him into their home. And also he was like 30 and the son was supposed to be like 15 or something. And so all of these things where you're like, how could these people possibly believe any of this stuff?
Yeah.
And yet they're so desperate to have their son back that they go along with it for this long period of time until, of course, eventually it all falls apart, mainly because of cops investigating.
Mm.
But it's also it's artistic in the way that it's presented, much like this, just it's not just here's an interview and here's a news clip kind of thing.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
about conflicting narratives of what happened, and this con artist guy who of course is constantly lying about everything, including to the filmmaker in the documentary, and you never know if what he says is really true or is really the way that things happened. And it is interspersed with some reenactments and stuff, so you can certainly see the progression from that film
Yeah.
to this film, I think.
That's really interesting. Yeah, and it's something that's definitely been on my radar, and I'm looking forward to seeing one of these days. And that's cool how he apparently flipped his like his film progression from sounds like mostly documentary with a little bit of narrative, and then flipping it the other way. It's an interesting like change, you know?
Right. And I
Yeah.
wonder where he's going to go from here. I mean, not that he has to only ever make movies
Sure.
about weird true crime stories,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but yeah, it's you think, uh, after The Imposter, like, oh, this guy is a really creative documentary film, he's the next Errol Morris or something like that, and he's going to make another documentary, and yet he kind of swerves in this slightly different direction, and now
Yeah.
who knows where he's going to end up.
Well, sticking on the true crime, and also I think Texas as well. He said that was in Texas. I think this
Yeah, I
was in
believe it
Texas.
was. Yeah.
Bernie from Richard
Oh,
Linklater.
yes.
Yeah, that was in Texas, wasn't it?
I think so.
I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the whole, not knowing the truth. Everybody's got a different story. incorporating real people into the narrative and all that, into this fictional film. It I love that movie, by the way.
I agree.
Bernie.
That's a great,
Yeah.
and that was a good one that I was trying to think of more movies like that where real subjects interacted with like the actors who played them.
There's not a lot of them that I was able to think of, and yeah, I mean, Bernie definitely is one of the better uses of that, and it's just like, even just thinking about that movie makes me like kind of laugh, and like, just because just how ridiculous that whole story is, and this is another ridiculous story of these idiots basically that try to rob a museum.
Yeah. Yeah, Bernie is great. I like that movie a lot. I think that's maybe sort of underrated as far as Richard Linklater's films go.
Yeah.
And that's even beyond, right, the way that the real people interact and are incorporated in the movie. Like Richard Linklater himself, like had Bernie like live in his garage.
I know. Yeah, that is crazy. I actually listened to like a whole story on that once, and it's such an interesting story, So I'm wondering if maybe Evan Peters went out and went nuts with this Warren guy or something, right?
Yeah, no, you never know. I could see that happening. That's possible.
So what would your next puzzle piece be?
Okay, well, I will go with another obvious choice.
Mm-hmm.
For any movie, really, where fiction or not, where characters tell conflicting stories about what happened is, of course, Rashomon.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think maybe is a little overused in reference, where again, any movie that remotely has that kind of storyline, you'll always, this is like Rashomon.
Yeah.
And of course, in terms of the actual narrative content of this movie, it is nothing like Rashomon, which is a sort of almost quasi mystical, medieval fairy tale almost.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it is the root really of all movies that tell stories this way. And I guarantee that anyone who makes a movie like this thinks about Rashomon and knows that they're going to be compared to Rashomon and kind of has that in the back of their mind. And just the idea of that. And I don't know specifically if there are any other movies before that, and I think it was in the 50s, I believe, that Rashomon came out, where that kind of thing happened. But I mean, certainly not any that are as well known. And that's really, it is kind of a radical thing. The idea of like telling, the audience not really even knowing what is the quote unquote true version of what happened, is that, the story isn't being told from point A to point B. And now I think we're used to that happening in a lot of ways in a lot of movies, but maybe at that time it didn't. So I think that is legit. And I've certainly seen it mentioned in a number of reviews and comments on this movie. So it seems like kind of a requisite thing to mention, but at the same time, it's there's a lot of distance between Rashomon and this movie.
Sure, absolutely. Although I could totally picture those guys that pulled off this robbery, like sitting there just like smoking a joint, being like, this movie they're going to make on us is like Rashomon.
Yes, that is, I could see that as well.
Seems so like such an easy line to draw there. Another movie that immediately came to mind was the first one I thought of, actually, which also deals with the whole not knowing the truth and with the characters kind of leading you astray and everything like that, is I, Tonya.
Yes, that is on my list as well.
Right on, yeah. I, Tonya, obviously the dramatized story, but with a kind of a documentary style, but they're also kind of leading you on to what it is they want you to believe about the events that happened. It's questionable about whether or not, you're coming away with what form of the truth from that movie, but regardless, it's a fun movie, a wild ride,
Yeah, absolutely. I had that on my list too. And I think a lot of the documentary style interviews in that movie are, heavily based on real interviews that the screenwriter did with those real people.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're verbatim per se, but I mean, you get the impression that they could have replaced those with real documentary interviews and it would have had kind of the same effect. So yeah, I did, that came to mind strongly for me as well.
Yeah.
And I think I, Tonya is better than this, and maybe balances that kind of thing more effectively.
Yeah.
But they definitely have a lot of similarities.
Yeah, and I think also, well, I mean, I guess rather than wait till the end, one of my main problems with American Animals was that I think the filmmakers absolutely had an idea in mind of what the point was of this, but I don't think they quite got there with what happened. I think maybe dramatizing the interviews the way that they did in I, Tonya would have helped to nail down that point of these people aren't good people, really. These people kind of screwed up their own lives. They screwed up the lives of the life of the library, the lady at the library. And so it's like, not giving them a platform and giving them a movie and all that, instead of just making a movie, would have maybe a little bit more put it in the right direction of having a point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does sort of feel like you get to the end and you're like, well, what exactly did this amount to? Not only for the people, but like for the movie, for the storytelling. So yeah, I can see that. I think it's interesting that it combines these things that we don't necessarily expect to be combined, but I think that puts it in a sort of awkward middle ground that doesn't fully succeed on either level, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe I, Tonya, by fully dramatizing everything, does a better job of it.
Right.
Yeah.
But regardless, I mean, it definitely it's definitely an interesting way of combining the two.
Yeah.
And it definitely works on its own level. It's just I definitely thought about it as I was leaving the theater, whether or not something the way I, Tonya, handled it could have possibly been a better way to handle it, especially given the circumstances of what these people did and everything.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to feel like you're endorsing not what they did or endorsing them as people, like you said, like that they're actually good people when clearly they're not.
So what would your next puzzle piece be then?
Okay, so the next thing I have is another movie about privileged bored teenagers committing useless crimes, which is The Bling Ring.
Nice.
Sofia Coppola's sort of, I guess you could qualify that as a true crime movie as well, about the Los Angeles teenagers who robbed celebrity houses based on gossip reports when they learned that people would be out of town shooting movies or whatnot. And I think in both cases, you have people who are, I mean, objectively, maybe you could say their lives are pretty good. They're not wanting for anything.
Sure, exactly.
In neither of these cases are these people committing crimes because they can't feed themselves or they can't support their children or something like that. They just want something to do.
Yeah.
And they feel like we could get away with this, so why wouldn't we do it?
Yeah.
And, it sort of speaks to the like meaninglessness of modern life,
Exactly.
like if you have theoretically all the things that you could possibly need, what is there for you? Like what point is there to existence and how do you get feeling or whatever? And I think The Bling Ring is maybe a little more disaffected and distanced from those characters than this movie is. Obviously, with the documentary elements, you have the real people literally explaining those kinds of motivations or whatever. But I think in both cases it's giving, the filmmakers have a bit of that distance to look at and say like, what are these people doing? Or like, what was even the point of any of this? And, at the end of it, they end up in prison or they end up having ruined their lives for what? Even though I guess at least in this movie, in American Animals, at least in one case, I think it was Warren who's basically like, has no regrets whatsoever. And in fact,
he's just enjoying the ride.
Right. Man. Even having gone to prison for 7 years, like that was worth it, which, I think The Bling Ring, the real people there probably didn't feel that way.
Sure.
But, it's definitely something that I thought of. And I think The Bling Ring is great. I think it's actually an underrated movie as far as Sofia Coppola's films go.
I like The Bling Ring. I didn't love it, but I did like it. Wasn't that like the first A24 film, I think?
It could be. I know you're the big A24
I love
fanboy.
A24 movies. I think it was their first release. But yeah, no, I did like that movie for sure a lot. And that's actually a really good point, though. I hadn't thought of that one. And that's totally mirrors the same kind of disaffected, like, just need for reason and
Right.
need for something to do, you know?
Yeah.
Of these otherwise entitled people, you
Yeah.
know? And that's a good one. Let's see. My next puzzle piece. Well, so this is more of how should I put it? More of like a reason for the filmmakers looking into stories like this, and that is Making a Murderer and other true crime series,
Right.
you know, which are so hot, like especially on TV, not so much in movies, but looking for the next one of those. And this is a clear example of a, like, you know, stranger than fiction kind of a story that they could have adapted. And I'm sure when they found it, they were just like, you know, boom, you
Right.
know, let's
Yes.
do
It's
this.
a gold mine. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, because it is a great example of just a crazy weird story. And I'm sure it was probably a lot of fun too, to like put a story like this together, to just look at it and be like, wow, I can't believe this happened. Let's try to make this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it does. I mean, I think one thing it lacks or is different from that is there's no mystery here. We're not
Right.
watching this wondering like, did they really do it, or
Mhm.
who really did it,
Yeah.
or whatever. But yeah, stuff like that, certainly you imagine that. And if you're a filmmaker right now and you have one of those stories, you can probably get some financing really easily.
I am sure. Absolutely. That movie is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next thing I have on my list is actually a movie that is explicitly referenced in this movie, which is Reservoir Dogs.
My next one too.
There you go. So that seems very, very obvious, and clearly the characters in this movie, I mean, they're very influenced by movies, not just this. I mean, it's the one that's most heavily mentioned in the movie.
Yeah.
But at one point we see them watching, I think it's The Killing, the Stanley Kubrick movie, which I have not actually seen, so can't really speak to. But there's also like kind of a pile of DVDs of various things. And actually reading, there's a Vanity Fair article from 2007 that was written, like a very long, extensive article about this, where they interviewed, it was when they were all still in prison. And it mentions that, which is a fun detail that isn't in this movie, but that during the period of time between when they committed the robbery and when they were caught, and when they were all like super paranoid and actually literally the cops were following them, they all went to see in the theater Ocean's 12. And we're sitting in the theater like commenting on how it related to their situation, while like 4 rows behind them the cops were sitting there listening to everything that they said. So these characters obviously are really influenced by heist movies, and Reservoir Dogs is the most obvious one. They specifically name themselves, you know, Mr. Pink and Mr. Black, and just like in Reservoir Dogs. And they're the sort of fantasy sequence where they imagine the heist going really well. Yeah. You know, they're all dressed in those kind of Tarantino style suits.
Totally.
So, but beyond that, I think Reservoir Dogs also is a movie about a heist that does not go well.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. That is definitely another reason why I singled that one out. Because Reservoir Dogs does not end well for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things in this movie, and it's kind of funny that they're idolizing some of these movies where it doesn't work out for the people in the movies. Like, you don't want to be like those guys, because those guys, I mean, in the case of Reservoir Dogs, they died, a lot of them, you know,
and very painfully.
Right. And that's not what happens here. But I think, I think maybe Layton uses that disconnect between their sort of, oh, isn't Reservoir Dogs so badass, and the knowledge that like, well, actually in Reservoir Dogs things go very poorly for those people. And that gives you, even if you don't know what happens, maybe the sense in the foreshadowing of like, oh, this isn't going to work out for these guys.
You know, also one of the characters had a Reservoir Dogs poster on his wall in the movie, so
there you go.
That's another reason why I was singling that one out. And that's also a good, I mean, you just kind of touched on it right there a little bit, but a good setup for my next puzzle piece, which is, I have literally written down every heist movie ever. Because it's so clear that the real life people were so inspired by heist movies, and I hate blaming, you know, real life acts of crime on movies, because that's bullshit as far as I'm concerned. But to a certain dumb enough person, you know what I mean? It could possibly influence them a little bit. And yeah, I mean, these guys are clearly inspired by heist movies, you know, Ocean's 11 and just all of them really. And then also the filmmakers and the way that they staged the reenactment of it all.
Yeah.
You know, certainly they're picking and choosing little bits and pieces from a lot of different heist movies.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a movie that you could say even like kind of comments on the idea of the heist movie, which I think is one of those ambitions that maybe doesn't fully get realized here, but is certainly something that they're aiming for in parts of this movie.
Yeah, that's 100%. That's the main thing that I think, and I think it's interesting and admirable that they're trying to make that comment of people that are pulling off heists in these movies are not good people, you know? Like,
right.
That's great that they're taking that angle, which is original and different. It just doesn't quite get there, you know, to the point that I think that they're trying to make there. But regardless, it is done at least in an entertaining way.
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
you know,
it is
in a
entertaining.
different way.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, there's a lot of suspense in this movie. That the heist sequence when they actually go through with it is extremely tense.
Yes, absolutely.
And especially because you know it's going to go wrong, and you're just waiting for like, what are they going to screw up?
Yeah.
And that's sort of in contrast, I think, to a lot of heist movies, especially like the Ocean's movies, which obviously they idolize, where everything always goes perfectly in those movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Every single minute of it.
Yeah. So my next is another heist movie. So maybe we, you know, have kind of covered the whole gamut of that, but I will mention Quick Change, which is, I feel like, a very underrated movie. Co-directed by Bill Murray, the only movie that Bill Murray ever directed or anything, which is a movie about a heist that goes really well, but then the characters cannot escape.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously, in this movie, the heist doesn't go according to plan, but ultimately they do get away with some stuff, and could have like gotten away with the whole thing, but then after the heist, things continue to go wrong. You know, just little things that they can't possibly do. You know, they show up at Christie's to get the appraisal, and the guy that they made an appointment with is off that day.
Yeah.
And, you know, just these little things that give out the wrong phone number to somebody, and like these small mistakes or even, you know, things that are out of their control, like a guy being, you know, having an off day or whatever, add up until the point where, you know, they end up getting caught. And so, I mean, Quick Change is a comedy, and it's funny how ridiculous the situations are that these characters end up with after they're, you know, they've gotten away with $1 million or whatever it is that they've stolen from a bank. But I think that idea of the absurdity of like, we have this, we got it, and yet we can't, you know, there's one shot in American Animals where you see, I think it's Evan Peters' character, one of the characters, and it's like these rare, you know, books that are worth millions are just like sitting in like a satchel, like under his bed or something. And it's like, that's, what did they even end up with? Because they can't possibly like, they can't make that next step after they've committed this crime.
Sure. Yeah. That's hilarious. The book's just sitting there.
Yeah. I thought that was a great shot, because you're like, this is what it's amounted to, is they have books under their bed now.
Yeah. That is so funny. So I only had one more here, and it's not a very definitive one. It was more just about just the feeling of these kind of burnout characters, and that was Dazed and Confused. Back to Richard Linklater,
right?
But yeah, just like a bunch of really colorful characters that all have their own like very distinct personalities teaming up in a way, like doing something together. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's more of a surface level thing, but I think I was thinking of that one at first, and that led me to Bernie. So I was like, I'm gonna just leave it in there as one of them. So
right. Yeah. Well, and Blake Jenner, who plays Chaz, the kind of athlete guy, the last one that they recruit, was one of the main stars of Everybody Wants Some.
That's right. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
So yeah. Always, I love Richard Linklater, and you could just mention all his movies, and I'll just be happy to talk about them.
Let's just go right through it.
Well, I have two more, so I'll go quickly because they're
cool.
they're both kind of similar to ideas that we've talked about before.
Uh-huh.
One is Fargo, which is another movie about people attempting to commit the quote unquote perfect crime and miserably failing.
Yeah.
And I mean, and even has the sort of this obviously is a true story, but Fargo is not, but it has that pretend true crime tone to it.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
the on-screen text at the beginning that says is a true story when of course it isn't.
Yeah.
But, you know, it definitely, like, a lot of people believed that it was.
Yeah.
And it definitely has that tone of like, here are all these things that, you know, you can imagine real people doing and miserably, you know, going awry when you try to commit a crime like this.
I actually was thinking of Fargo at one point, and also A Simple Plan.
Yes,
you know, as both similar, just plans that go bad.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, in A Simple Plan is another. I think there's movies like that where it's like everyone turns on each other.
Yeah.
You know, and one thing that doesn't happen in this movie,
Right? They do not turn on each other.
No. And in fact, one thing I don't think it's in the movie, but I read in the Vanity Fair article is that they were all offered the chance to testify against each other, and they all refused. Which is why they all ended up with the like full 7-year sentence.
I'd love to see a sequel that's just like those scenes of them just going nuts. Like, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. So, you know, credit to them, I guess. But yeah, Fargo, and even the Fargo TV series in like in the 3rd season, one of the big plot elements is the attempt to steal a rare stamp.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is another one of these like kind of ridiculous but super valuable things that, you know, you could focus on stealing.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I had is another kind of documentary with reenactments and sort of the progenitor of all of those, which is Errol Morris's The Thin Blue Line, which also uses the idea of conflicting narratives, where eventually it comes down on a particular side of here's what really happened.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout the movie, as he interviews different people about this crime, he shows reenactments of it occurring as each person kind of claims that it occurred, you know, before coming to a conclusion of here's what it really is. But I mean, that's another movie about, I mean, it's a more kind of less outlandish crime. I mean, it's murder though. So it's, you know, not as entertaining, but it's, you know, but this kind of like confluence of absurd details and coincidences and things like that of course led to this guy being convicted for a crime that he didn't commit. But Morris was really, I'm sure he wasn't the first one to use reenactments, but you know, really brought that kind of structure to the forefront of documentary filmmaking, and you know, made it so much more prevalent, I think, in quote unquote serious and artistic documentaries.
Sure. You know, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here.
Okay.
And if you don't have one, that's totally fine. But I was trying to think of one earlier, but I just couldn't think of a specific movie. But a movie where there are details that are being lied about, but they show them anyway. And then it turns out, oh, that wasn't true. There actually something else happened.
Right. I mean,
I'm trying to think of specific movies where that has happened. It seems like something they've seen a million times before.
Right. I think so. And I think you're right. I can't recall any other than, you know, what we've talked about already.
Yeah.
I can't really think of more movies like, but there's definitely movies that are like that. Or even if where it's just like one moment in a movie, maybe it's not like kind of the whole concept of the movie,
right?
But you know, something that happens where it's like, oh wait, rewind, that's not really what happened, kind of thing. I mean, just as I was saying, like when you mentioned Bernie, I was trying to think of movies where, you know, real people, it's a true story, and some of the real people involved in the story interact with the actors playing real people, and I actually was Googling like actors interact with reals, and that did not get me anywhere. But I feel like there are other movies like that, and certainly like what you mentioned with the idea of, I mean, there's movies with twists, which is not quite the same thing, where you get to the twist at the end and you realize, oh, some of the stuff that we've seen prior to this has sort of been misrepresented.
Like The Usual Suspects or something.
Or Fight Club. Which I've seen some cite as an influence on this movie, or maybe an influence on the characters, you know, the idea of these
I was thinking
angry
about that
young white males wanting meaning in their lives. Although I thought that was maybe a bit of a stretch, but yeah, as far as that, I mean, you know, the kind of thing that happens like in I, Tonya, or in this movie where, you know, someone is describing something and you see it and then you realize like, well, that might not actually be what really happened. I can't think of any right now.
It's funny when you said you were Googling. I when I was doing, before I did the tag episode, I was I was Googling movies where friends continue a game from their childhood. There
And
wasn't,
it
there
didn't
wasn't
get you
that
any
much.
results?
No,
Yeah.
no. So that brings us to the finished puzzle here. So I'm going to list out all the movies we think inspired American Animals. So we have The Imposter, I, Tanya, Rashomon, The Bling Ring, Making a Murderer, another true crime series, Reservoir Dogs, every heist movie ever, Quick Change, Fargo, Bernie, Dazed and Confused, and The Thin Blue Line. So that is our finished list. And, just to wrap things up, I like this movie a lot. Like I said throughout the episode, I feel like there's some ideas that it was trying to get across that it didn't quite get like fully formed. But aside from that, it was still very entertaining. A lot of great performances in it. And it was interesting and original. And I really liked it a lot.
Yeah, I think I liked it a little less than you did.
Yeah.
I appreciate all those ambitions. I think mostly they're not realized.
Yeah.
And while I was appreciating them at the same time, I finished this movie thinking I probably would have liked it better if it was just a documentary.
Yeah.
And then I went and read that Vanity Fair article, which fills in so many other details.
It sounds really interesting. I need to go read that.
And it's from like 2007. So obviously, a lot of things, they were all in prison at the time. So, there's more that the movie gets to later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it made me feel like I think I would have liked it better. Or maybe if it was just a narrative and you weren't constantly going back and being reminded of the real subjects and wondering, oh, what else do they have to say?
Right.
But I do appreciate that it's very ambitious and it's stylish, and a lot of it was entertaining. I mean, certainly that heist stuff, the actual heist was very entertaining. You would lose that in a straightforward documentary, and I very much felt the like suspense and the tension, and like even though these are terrible people, like you said, you kind of almost want it to go well. You want it to go well just because like the more it fails, the more likely they are to like hurt someone.
Right. They're not going to get encouraged to do it all again.
Right. Or, the poor librarian, they have to, try to keep tasing her over and over again in order to get her to shut up.
Another thing that, how do you say his name? Barry Keoghan?
Oh, Keoghan?
Keoghan?
Yeah.
He is an odd dude, that actor.
Yeah. Well,
after the killing of the sacred deer.
Right.
Yeah, he's an odd dude. Even in this, where he's kind of the heart of the movie, he's still pretty weird.
He is. Well, all of these characters are meant to be kind of
off,
I think, in some way. But yeah, he's very unsettling in the killing of a sacred deer.
Yeah. Oh,
very
absolutely.
Much,
yeah. All right. Well, I think that brings it to a close. Josh, thanks again for being here. Do you have anything coming up you want to plug or anything?
Well, things that I'm always doing, go to joshbellhateseverything.com and see my reviews of terrible dinosaur movies on VOD.
Oh, I just saw that today. Yeah.
And maybe you can discuss them in your upcoming Jurassic World episode.
Oh yeah. That would require me watching them.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Follow me on Twitter at SignalBleed. Check out Josh Bell Hates Everything on Facebook. You can keep up with all my reviews and commentary and all the various places where I write those things and appear. And keep watching the skies. I don't know.
Perfect.
Hi there, I'm Mike.
I'm Shani.
I'm Kev.
And together we present There Will Be Geek, a compendium and magazine of all the nonsense you can possibly eat about pop culture.
There's like a bomb stuck to a toilet, and on toilet paper it says, boom, you're dead. How do you not like that?
2 podcasts a month.
Just going back to the rib removal to blow yourself thing, well, it always concerns celebrities who would in no way ever need to give themselves a blowjob. If Clint Howard removed a rib to blow himself, I can understand that, because who the f*** would?
So come along. You can find us on iTunes,
Libsyn,
SoundCloud, Facebook,
www.therewillbegeek.com.
Have a listen. There will be geek.
If you're a longtime listener of Piecing It Together, you're probably asking yourself, what was that? Well, it's an ad for another podcast, actually. It's called There Will Be Geek, and it's a really cool podcast that deals with all things geek. And we're going to be doing a lot of cross promotions with a lot of other podcasts that deal with movies, TV, and video games, and anything entertainment related. Something that people that listen to Piecing It Together will like. We want to help get them heard, and they're going to be playing ads for Piecing It Together to help other people discover Piecing It Together. So this is going to be something that we do from now on, and I hope you guys check out some of these other podcasts. So, and I also hope that you enjoyed that conversation with Josh Bell about American Animals. It's a really cool movie. It should still be playing in theaters at this time if you're listening to this right when it goes up. So make sure you go check it out. So that is our show for today. 2 episodes this week. I hope you check them both out. And make sure you are subscribed to Piecing It Together on whatever podcast app it is you listen to podcasts on. We're on Apple Podcasts. We are on Pocket Cast, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, all the rest of them. Make sure you're subscribed. Leave us a review. Send us some feedback. We want to know how you're enjoying the show. Connect with us on social media at Piecing Pod. And again, send us your feedback because we really would love to know how you're enjoying the show. And if you have any questions or any comments, or if you think we missed a puzzle piece, or if you think we're wrong about a puzzle piece, just get in touch with us. We want to hear about it. And we can get you involved with the show too if you want. So just get in touch. So that'll do it for this episode. And I'm going to just leave you guys with a piece of my music from my most recent album, A Different Kind of Dream. And we will be back next week with another episode.
And all points west.